So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about what is responsive design. I'll be doing another video to talk about how to actually code it, but for now, I really just want to show you what responsive design looks like, some of the things that you can do with responsive design, and understanding what you need to know before we go in there. Things like breakpoints, how to test. So to give you a little bit of history, responsive came about in the old days when the mobile. So to give you a bit of history, when mobile first became when mobile websites became something we had to start considering, originally companies would have two different versions of their website. They'd have a desktop version and they would have a mobile version. So if you updated in one place, you had to go and update it in another. You can imagine this caused lots of headaches. So eventually, responsive design came in. And what responsive design is, simply put, the website responds to the sizing of the browser. So if I were to shrink this window down some, you could see that things shrink and grow, right? Some things even switch off. That's responsive. Responsive means we can take one website, run what we call some media queries in our CSS, and make it fit multiple devices. One of the first things you need to do before you start is to understand a breakpoint. So let me show you what I mean by a breakpoint. So I'm just going to go right here. I'm going to go into my inspect on Google Chrome, which is a great tool for you guys, and especially when you're doing responsive. And as you can see, if you watch the numbers here at the top, especially the first set of numbers, they shrink. Basically, a breakpoint is the width of a window, the width of a browser, I should say. Now, when you're doing responsive web design, you could make a billion breakpoints. We don't want to do that. So let me show you some of the standard breakpoints. So going from smallest to largest, most people, and some people do some different ones, but this is kind of standard. We start with 320, which is the smallest. In other words, when you are on an iPhone in portrait mode, or you're on most other smartphones, the amount of room that you have, as it were, for your website is 320 pixels wide. Next, we have 480. Again, more smartphones, usually Android phones, landscape iPhones. Tablets in portrait mode tend to be 600 pixels, or roughly there around. So things like e-readers, your Nook, your Kindle, some landscape Androids. Another breakpoint is 800, so tablet, landscape, iPad. And then 1024 and up is what we do for desktops, big landscape tablets. Generally, 1024 or even 1200 and up, we don't even do media queries. That's what we build to. So understanding these breakpoints, these are the areas in which you need to start shrinking things down. You need to start rearranging items on your website. So let me show you an example of what I mean. And this also leads me into my next topic, which is understanding the tools for when you're designing responsive. So again, Google Chrome has a great editor. So does Firefox. I prefer Google Chrome. Right here at the top on the device bar, you'll see this little icon, and it even says that you can toggle devices. Okay, so you can come here, you click on this is desktop, and if you want to see devices, you click on that. Now, here's a great example of some of the things they do in this site. They have a slider that goes. They have the mobile marketing information, interactive development. They have several things going on down here. Then when they go responsive and they go to the phone, well, they get rid of the slider altogether, and they stack things on top of each other. just like that. If you want to change that and you say that's an iPhone, well, what does it look like on a iPhone 5? And it's a little bit smaller, right? Not much of a difference. What does it look like on a Galaxy S5? Well, that's bigger. Again, not much difference. But let's look at an iPad. So there's their iPad. And you can see they brought back the big header image, right? The slider is back. You can also switch it from portrait to landscape and vice versa. So if you want to see what it's going to look like on the landscape, how does that work? Right? Let's go back to the phone again. What does this look like in landscape? Right? They've even got their arrow so that people can move back up. So that's the beginning of responsive design. You need to understand what it is. You need to start with your breakpoints. You need to understand how the flow is going to work. There are some items on your web homepage that maybe you don't need in responsive. Again, just like here, they decided the slider was something they didn't need, so they got rid of it. And understanding these breakpoints, the different sizes at which you're going to have to readjust the content of your website. So I'll have another video on here where I will actually show you how those breakpoints come into play and how we actually create the responsive website.